Dale Novine here, and welcome to At Home with Music. Well, as I mentioned in a previous video, we've got a few more seventh chords to look at today, but let's quickly review the seventh chords that we've already looked at. So you remember we started with a dominant seventh chord, and I'm going to build these chords on C. So there's our dominant seventh chord, and then we created the minor seventh chord, half diminished, and then we went to the major seventh, and then finally to the minor major seventh chord. So we have 5 seventh chords, and so we've got a few more that we're going to look at, and these are not new seventh chords, but ones that perhaps you are not as familiar with. And so the next one actually is a chord that we looked at, a chord type that is a seventh chord, but it's also one of the types of chords that we looked at way back in the beginning of music basics. This one is the diminished chord. So we start with our dominant seventh chord, and we're going to lower all 3 of the top notes. So the E goes down to E flat, the G goes down to F sharp, or G flat if you like, and then the B flat goes to A. And so we have diminished. This is a diminished seventh chord. It's that very dramatic sounding chord. Now this next one, we're going to start with a major seventh chord. So you remember it looks like this. And what we're going to do is raise the 5th. So this is the triad. That's the root, that's the 3rd, that's the 5th, that's the 7th. We're going to raise the 5th. And so we get this rather jarring sound. It sounds like something out of a horror movie, doesn't it? And there's really no other way to call this except the major seventh with a raised 5th. I don't have a good short little name for it. I guess we could call it the augmented 7th chord or something like that. Now we've got one more. We're going to go back to our dominant 7th chord. It's the one that perhaps you are the most familiar with at this time. And we're going to lower the 5th. And so we end up with a chord that sounds like this. And so this is a dominant 7th with a flatted 5th, or lowered 5th if you like. Now we have 8 7th chords that you can play around with, starting with the dominant 7th chord, minor 7th chord, half diminished 7th chord, major 7th chord, minor major 7th chord, diminished 7th chord. Just call that a diminished chord. And this is a major 7th chord with the raised 5th. You could call it the C augmented 7th chord or something like that. And then we also have dominant 7th chord with a flatted 5th. So there you go. You've got 8 7th chords. And of course the challenge now, this is going to require a little bit of thought, is to create those 8 types of 7th chords on each note of the chromatic scale. Lots and lots of 7th chords. Now I haven't done the math, but I imagine if you take 8 times 12, that's how many 7th chords you'll be able to construct. I just did a quick bit of math on my calculator on the phone, and I think you've got 96 seventh chords to find on your keyboard. And that will definitely increase your chord vocabulary. And it will also make your playing sound very rich and very full as you learn how to employ these various types of seventh chords. So what we're going to do in some future videos is we'll take a look at some songs that use seventh chords, and you'll hear how they sound in context. You'll also hear how some of these seventh chords can resolve to other chords. So for example, if you have a diminished chord, it can resolve to this, or it can resolve to something like this. Lots of possibilities. And so we'll see how some songs, perhaps songs that you know, use these various seventh chords. Anyway, I know that's a lot to absorb, so we're not going to go on to ninth chords at this point. We'll do that somewhere down the road. You've got an awful lot to deal with just with seventh chords. So once again, thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, you can leave those in the comment section below. I always read every comment that I receive and try my best to respond to everyone. If you'd like to support my work, you can go to my Patreon page. I'll leave the link below for that. If you have not yet subscribed to At Home with Music, I invite you to do so. It really helps the channel. And I will talk to you in the next one.